Welcome back to Horror 101. I'm Mr. Grace, and for this lecture, we're going to do things a little different. This essay isn't going to be as formal and structured as the other few videos that I've done. In fact, I'm actually skipping several planned videos in order to get this one filmed. This is going to be more of akin to a love letter to one of my favorite video game franchises, and as a thank you to the countless developers who have worked on the series. As along with my fellow fans all around the world, we celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Resident Evil franchise together in 2026. Aside from this intro, I'm not using a script. For right now, I have my teleprompter and my script telling me what to say, but soon enough, I'm just gonna have some bullet points to hopefully keep me on track, but I imagine that editing this into any sort of coherent final video is gonna be a little bit of a bitch, but it will be well worth it. As I talk about the different games, I'll do my best to include actual gameplay footage that I recorded on VHS cassettes way back when the games originally released. If I need to use footage from other sources, I'll be sure to include where they came from on the screen. This is also not an analysis of the games or retrospective in the traditional sense. This is purely me speaking from the heart, expressing my thoughts and opinions, and explaining how and why this particular franchise is among a select few that have had a profound impact on my life. So, sit back and join me as we take a personal look back at the world of survival horror. There is something very Pavlovian about the startup sound of the original PlayStation console to me. It can instantly take me back to my teenage years, and it just gives me that endorphin rush. I was beyond thrilled when PlayStation released it for the anniversary on the PS5, and you had the actual startup, and I really, really hope that they bring that back. The theme is great, but it is not enough. I was a teenager, about 13, 14, and a buddy of mine, Doc, he had just recently moved, about half an hour away. I get a phone call one day, and it's Doc, and he's asking, hey, can you come over? I'm playing this game, and it's freaking me the fuck out. And he wouldn't explain anything beyond that. And I, asked permission, I get dropped off, and the game was Resident Evil. The music was messing with him. The first zombie not dying, like he was not processing well, and he had to call for backup, so he called me, and we spent the entire night just getting used to the tank controls and figuring things out. And between the two of us, we were able to do pretty well. However, we were dumbasses at that time, and we did not realize that the memory card was not an item in-game, but a peripheral. His father hadn't purchased that. And we were like frantically looking around the mansion trying to find the damn thing. At some point, because throughout the summer we just would keep playing, we said to hell with it, and we didn't even bother looking for it anymore. We just played the game. We got so damn good that we had the maps memorized. I had the first and second floor of the mansion memorized. He had the guardhouse, and between the two of us we were able to figure out the labs. But we would be able to get to either of the tyrant battles before dying and having to start the game over again. But that was part of the fun of it. It was very much a sudden death kind of gameplay that we were doing. That first night, I thought I was a fucking genius. After about the third time going into the L passage, I figured out a way to be a little bit more prepared when the dog jumped through the window, because there was no auto-aim. So I figured, why don't I aim in that direction to begin with? I clearly remember that first day, that first night that we were playing, that we were like, okay, we need to take a break. It's like 3 or 4 in the morning. We're starting to get a little delirious. And we turned off the PlayStation and we were like, screw it. Like, we're just going to sleep on the floor in the living room. We'll throw a movie on for background noise. And it was the 1990 Tom Savini directed remake of Night of the Living Dead.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Are you sure we're gonna be all right? Cooper, you gotta help me out!
Night of the Living Dead.
We finished watching the movie and then turned the system back on and started playing again. So, teenagers, right? One time on the drive home after getting picked up, my mom took a detour to one of our local malls, and Circuit City, for those of you who remember that, and we pulled in there, and she said, go ahead and get the game that you've been playing. It's an early birthday present. So I got the console, I got the memory card, which I felt stupid of, and I got the long box version of the game. And that weekend, it was my house that we were able to go to, and we beat the game for the first time. We still managed to get to the end without saving at all. Even though we had a memory card, we just never used it. Our instincts were different. And we beat the game. The first time we beat the game, it was as Jill. And then it became going through and getting to the end as Chris. And that's when we started to discover the unlockables, the different costumes, and then the rocket launcher was a huge fun once we found that. That kind of solidified the friendship with Doc. I mean, we were good friends at school, but we became best of friends after that. And we would have these philosophical discussions afterwards about what we would do if, zombies were to attack. The Sega Saturn had a slightly different version of the original game. The graphics aren't as good as the PlayStation hardware was able to do, but it did have some extra features, like 2 tyrants in the boss battle, and when you would do like this special mode that you could unlock, you would encounter the golden tyrant. I do wish that the director's cut had included that material in it, but for whatever reason, they never got around to it. Resident Evil it's an understatement to say that it was a hit, right? It became one of the staples of the original PlayStation. Like, anytime somebody was talking about the PlayStation, Crash Bandicoot, Battle Arena Toshinden, Resident Evil, among several other titles that were very much, look what our system can do, right? And I'm reminded of the old ads where it was a mascot, Crash Bandicoot costume, standing outside the Nintendo headquarters harassing them. I miss those commercials.
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived.
It did not take long for Capcom to say that they were doing a sequel, that they were doing Resident Evil 2. And I remember Doc and I would hang out at his house to ungodly hours in the morning, pissing off his parents, because you have to remember, this is about mid to late 1990s, and when you connected to the internet, you had a modem, and those things were loud as hell. They let everybody in the house know that you were online. So we would get yelled at quite often. We were scouring the internet for any information that we could get, any new screenshots, if there were small video clips, no matter what potato quality pixelation they were. Character sketches. One of the original character sketches of Leon, where he's just wearing, a t-shirt and he's got the shoulder strap holster, and just thinking, this is not Chris, this is just a normal dude. Elsa being in a full biking jumpsuit from Raccoon University. It looked like it was going to be such an intense game, and we were we were obsessed with finding out information about it. And I remember one night, like, the internet did something really crazy for a second, like the Matrix straight up glitched, and they had a webcam, like an early webcam, but it really didn't like do much of anything. But it turned on for about 30 seconds and then turned itself off. And part of it is we were thinking we were delusional and like we accidentally tapped it or something like that, but we have no idea what happened. But later on, we came to say that Capcom was spying on us just as much as we were spying on them. It was after they had scrapped it and Capcom was trying to kind of buy time, and they released a director's cut that was supposed to be an uncensored version, where it had the uncensored colorized introduction. It didn't. It still had the black and white. It was supposed to actually have the moment where Kenneth's head drops on the floor and flops to the side. It didn't. Just like with the first game, it started with a phone call. So a couple of weeks before the release of the game, Doc calls me up and he's like, "Hey, you need to come over this weekend again." And I didn't think anything of it, and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "Oh, director's cut. It's at the rental store. I got it. Say no more." It was very much the same game that it was. The additional camera angles helped change things up a little bit. The item placement being removed around kept us on our toes, because at this point, we had the damn Spencer Mansion memorized. Like, I knew exactly what item was where. I could count by the pixel how far I had to be in order to grab something without triggering an enemy sometimes. So it was refreshing. But the demo disc of Resident Evil 2. So after all of this obsession, we actually got to play as the new character, and to this day, that demo itself is kind of my reset button. Like, if I'm stressed out, if I'm having a bad day, if I'm in a bit of a mood, I can totally play just that demo, and I'll be okay at the end of it. It's just long enough that I'm not stressed about it. It is short enough that it doesn't take time from my day, from whatever errands I'm running, whatever the situation happens to be. It was just the perfect length. And it also gave us like 3 what the fuck moments. One of which being the insane change in graphics. I mean, the difference between the mansion and that environment to the city street on fire with several zombies walking towards you was insane to us at the time. Seeing the little profile picture in the menu and seeing him moving around and hearing his voice, because apparently, according to Doc at that time, my voice sounded similar to that. So we just joked around that when that webcam came on, Capcom spied on us. They decided to put me in the game. That was Doc telling me that, and my paranoia for like the first 10 seconds started to get the better of me before I shut the fuck up and just played the demo. When the actual game of Resident Evil 2 finally came out, it was the first game that I had ever pre-ordered. Like, the moment I saw at the mall in EB Games that they were opening it up for pre-orders, they had my money. When January came around and it was release day, I remember calling Doc and saying, "Hey, guess what I'm picking up tonight?" Because it was a midnight release. That was back when those meant something. And we both went to the EB Games together and grabbed the copy, and we're just basking at it. We could not believe that we had it in our hands at that time. And we got to my house. It was my turn to host, playing the first time playing the game. And we beat Leon's scenario on the first try. Never died once. We saved quite often. But we were just in awe from the CG cinematic.
Wait! Don't shoot!
Get down!
And just how much more serious the game took itself than its predecessor. We were shocked by the plot twists and the turns, the difference in enemy design. That first time the liquor was introduced and it crawls across the window, we paused the game. I had to go take a piss because I was like about to wet myself because I had no clue what that thing was going to be. Doc like froze in place, and then like after the first time that we saw it in that cinematic where it's crawling on the ceiling and then drops down, it was like, this is so much more intense than the previous one. We actually slept that night, and then when we got up first thing in the morning, cool, get a couple bowls of cereal, sit back in front of the TV, let's do Claire's scenario now. And then we found out about the A/B scenarios, and only years later did we realize we should have played Claire's scenario first. But God, we love that. We love that game. As much as we were fans after playing the first game, it was a whole different level after the second game had come out. The original release of Resident Evil 2 had that contest where you could win a part in the Resident Evil movie. We were beyond hyped at the fact that they were going to be making a movie. I will not lie, I did cut out that entry form and send one in. Obviously, I've not appeared in any of the movies, but that would have been a teenage dream come true. And when we had learned that George Romero was attached, we were like, you have my money, like just make the movie. I never got the chance to play Resident Evil 2 on the Nintendo 64, but the fact that that version of the game exists is a fucking technical marvel. It should not exist on a cartridge of the fidelity that it is. It looks amazing. It looks absolutely amazing for what that developer was able to
I
do.
ain't got no clue, darling. By the time I noticed something was wrong, the entire city was infested with zombies.
Not long after that, a friend of mine who worked at a video rental store, where later on I ended up working as my first job, he came to school one day and he was like, hey, I have something for you to borrow, but you have to get it back to me tomorrow, because my boss doesn't know that I took it. And it was Resident Evil 3. It was a little bit before the actual street release date, again. But he knew I was a fan of the franchise. He knew I absolutely loved Resident Evil 2, so he knew exactly who to come with for the game. And oh my god, more action. Iconic villain. I was bad at the dodge system at first, and then one time I just locked in, and I remember there were 3 Cerberus in an area, and it was like one right after the other, just perfect dodges on them. I absolutely loved that they brought back Jill. She was a strong character in the first game. one of the prime examples that if a character is really well done, regardless of gender, they can be an absolute strength to a franchise. They don't need to be sexualized as a female, because there was nothing in the first game that was flattering about the uniform. It's a uniform. It's supposed to be practical, it's supposed to be militaristic, and they succeeded with that. While some can argue that they started to sexualize her in the third game, I don't feel that's the case. The storyline being that there's a heat wave going on makes sense. It's not like she knew that there was going to be an outbreak at that moment. And yes, you could argue that at some point she could have changed into more appropriate attire for what was going on, but it was 1999, alright? The system had its limitations. I kind of look at it the same way as the character design for Heather Mason in Silent Hill 3 was done, where she was designed by a team of female character designers who argued for her to be in the skirt and to have the high boots, and they were thinking fashion, what would a teenage girl be wearing? I kind of apply that same logic to the classic Jill Valentine look in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
I loved the ending. It felt very much like the conclusion of a solid trilogy.
Thanks. You saved us.
I couldn't let you die.
Is it you?
Are you ready to finish this?
It's coming.
Yeah. It's the end.
Finishing the Raccoon City storyline like that was phenomenal. It was emotional, it had impact, and it felt satisfying. A lot of games, you don't get that. Even when there is a definitive conclusion to things, it feels rushed, or like they kind of didn't care by the end. With Resident Evil Nemesis, even though that was not the original idea for what was going to be the third game, that would be Code Veronica, it very much still felt satisfying and appropriate, and the classic trilogy is to me is perfection of 1990s game making. I didn't have a Dreamcast, but Doc did. So for whatever reason, that was the next console that they had gotten, and I don't even remember why. But Doc got it, and for a birthday present, I remember I got him the ports of Resident Evil 2 and 3. He had gotten himself a copy of Code Veronica. I did, however, get Code Veronica X when it was released on the PlayStation 2 later on. We kind of switched things up. He mostly played, I mostly watched and kept track of things. Code Veronica, technical revolution. I mean, the fact that the environments were somewhat 3D but still fixed camera angle was absolutely mind-blowing, because it brought a more cinematic feel to the games. Loved the stronger depiction of Claire. That elevated with Code Veronica and her deciding to take on like an entire squad of soldiers from Umbrella right from the get-go. them bringing in the Ashfords was insane. I did not see the plot twist coming about the twins. I'm going to say it right now, and I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for it. I fucking hate Steve. I really, really do. I'm sorry. I understand the purpose of the character.
It was dirty work, but this area is now clean. No way. He won't come. You'll just end up disappointed if you rely on others. Believe me, I know.
Why he acts the way he acts.
Wait! I can't! Ah! Father!
Oh, fuck that dude. I didn't feel sadness the way that they probably wanted me to when he died. I felt bad for the character. I was like, man, he didn't deserve that. I also remember being very frustrated with a particular boss battle that a lot of people don't think ahead about and prepare for. So that was fun. And I did not expect the switch up when you switch over from playing as Claire to playing as Chris, and you're kind of repeating environments. I was not ready for that. That was definitely a surprise. It was a pleasant surprise. And I actually felt very relieved and started to feel the emotions when the two of them actually reunited, because it was like, yes, they found each other, they have each other. It's going to be success from here. God damn, that ending cinematic after defeating Alexia.
Move. Claire, no!
I had not seen a cinematic where you do nothing in a video game at that time, with the exception of a Hideo Kojima game.
Chris!
Hey.
Where that man, he's making interactive movies. I did not expect to be sitting there for like, what, 15 or 20 minutes before the credits rolled, so that Chris could get the shit beat out of him.
Sure, I'm not human anymore. But just look at the power I've gained.
Resident Evil Survivor on PS1. Wow.
What?
I like the game. For some reason, Ark Thompson is Doc's favorite character in the franchise. I think it's because, while I had a resemblance to Leon, he had a resemblance to Ark, kind of, once he kind of cut his hair short. But why? Why that game? The story doesn't make sense. The graphics are the same graphics, but in first person, and you can tell that the models were not made to be viewed that way. but it is a fun game, and it's a short game, so it only takes like what, hour and a half to be able to get through it. So you're not there for long. Resident Evil Gaiden. Oh man. I didn't even know that game existed until randomly I was at Walmart and I was looking for a different game. And then I saw the Leon image where it's from the concept art from Resident Evil 2 back in the day, and I was like, what the shit is this? And I didn't find the game that I was looking for, so that's the one that I ended up purchasing. Not a great game. Unfortunately not canon, but it did have Barry and Leon team up, so I adored that. It did a decent job trying to translate the gameplay styles of the PS games onto a handheld. They had to make, obviously some differences because of it being a handheld, limited system, and what you could do. But I found the switchover from third person walking around the map to first person combat with a little bar that goes back and forth. I found that good. I found that really, really innovative. The only gripe that I have with the game is the soundtrack, because really, as far as I remember, there's only 2 tracks that loop back and forth, and one of them's annoying as hell. And the other one, it's the most metal track on a Game Boy you will ever hear in your life. On PS2, Resident Evil Dead Aim. Again, why? Better attempt at the survivor idea, in that you could move around the environment in third person, you could interact, and then when you went to draw your weapon, that's when it zoomed into first person. So it was kind of a combination of Survivor and Gaiden in a way. But again, like, a lot of the story elements just don't make sense. There was never really any big payoff to it later on. I will say though, I did very much enjoy the design around the tyrant this time around, where the main villain transforms into essentially a female tyrant. Absolutely beautiful design. Hadn't seen a design like that where there's this beauty and elegance to it, as well as the horror element. Probably since the semi-final boss form in Code Veronica. The character of Bruce and they basically tried to recreate Leon and Ada's dynamic, and it did not work. I'm sorry, it did not work. They should have gone in a different direction with that. But it was the 2000s. It felt like it was just very much to kind of buy time while they were working on others. And it's not the first time that they kind of picked at low-hanging fruit, if you will. Resident Evil Deadly Silence came out on the Nintendo DS, and absolutely amazing port of the original game. Plus the benefits of having the dual screen, one of them being touch, being able to use the stylus to like knife slash. And I remember essentially you tried to do CPR, so like the microphone picked up on whether or not you were blowing at it. It was definitely a leap forward. A little gimmicky, but the fact that they were able to take the game and translate it to handheld was absolutely amazing. The Outbreak series was ahead of its time, man. I mean, PS2, early internet gaming, at least on consoles, very limited gameplay mechanics, right? You didn't have voice chat, you couldn't really coordinate like you can now. I never got to experience playing it online. I didn't even have internet at home at the time, so I just had to like suffer through with the AI controlled characters. I managed to get through it through both games and get like everything unlocked, but it took me a while. But I love that they were telling the story of what was happening in Raccoon City during the outbreak from multiple perspectives.
I clear the smell of smoke from my entire body, but the stench of death still remains. Two things are for certain. I'm alive by some miracle, and the next hell is waiting around the corner.
I love that they brought in civilians, that each civilian, their personality and their uniqueness came out in their gameplay mechanics, right? Like Yoko is a college student, so she's carrying a backpack, so she has the most inventory. Kevin, being a police officer, he is the most proficient with the firearms, so him firing the handgun is very different than David firing a handgun, right? Or definitely more different than Cindy firing the handgun. And I also loved how the weapons got damaged over time. That they brought melee weapons as an option into the game. That is huge, because how many times, like, am I playing a game and I'm like, if I grab that pipe, I'd like knock this thing up the side of the head. So they brought in that little, Resident Evil brought in a little Silent Hill to the combat with that one. I loved being able to visually see the weapons getting damaged. Like, I remember one time beating the holy hell out of one of the hunters and seeing the pipe bend from being brand new straight to it's essentially a boomerang by the end of the encounter. And it had some of the most memorable designs to some of the characters and some of the monsters that I can remember. The female half-licker that comes out of the hotel ceiling when you're trying to make that final escape from the building haunts me, because we saw mutations of what the T-virus can do to you, but we had never seen, like, what does it look like in the middle? And that to me is terrifying because it looks so damn painful, and you can only imagine, like, the person's consciousness, it was still in there during that transition, what that was like. I, to this day, will die on the hill that I feel the music, the theme of Outbreak is the best piece of music in the Resident Evil franchise. It is tragic and haunting and beautiful and frightening all at the same time. That is Resident Evil. That one music piece sums up all of the emotion that you should feel from the franchise. The Revelations games, I didn't play Revelations when it came out on 3DS. I did that later. Absolutely amazing presentation for the game. But my initial play of it was on the PS3. Those games are highly, highly underrated. If you're looking for the classic Resident Evil experience with modern controls, definitely Revelations and Revelations 2. Revelations 2 has such a great story to it. Bringing in Moira, the return of Barry. Barry's such a badass. Those games feel more like actual sequels in the franchise than some of the later games that actually came out. We've also got kind of the side games like Umbrella Chronicles and Dark Side Chronicles, Operation Raccoon City. They don't add anything really to the franchise. They're just a fun way of reliving the events. And Operation Raccoon City, I've not played. I have no interest in playing it, to be honest. It's not the kind of game that I was wanting. It's not the kind of game that I'm interested in playing, especially not set in the world of Resident Evil. Give me Outbreak, I'm there. Operation Raccoon City it didn't do it for me. It wasn't going to do it for me. And so I would say, you know, considering the little side games, the expanded universe, if you will, of it, they were experiments, right? They were testing the waters to see what else they could do with the franchise. So while they experimented, it was always fun, regardless of whether it was a good game or not. You would always have some sort of fun, or you would have something that you could take away that you still enjoyed about the game. Plus, I was just happy that we were still getting more Resident Evil. The Resident Evil remake on GameCube. I bought the damn game months before I had a GameCube. I didn't have the system yet, but I bought that game. And to me, that is the definitive Resident Evil 1 experience. It's got the old tank controls, which I'm sorry for those of you that can't handle it, but it's a skills issue. It's got the atmosphere. The music was just elevated to a whole nother level. And the original soundtrack is fucking classic. So the fact that they were able to improve upon it and add these different layers of instruments to it is wonderful. I loved that as much as part of the reason I love the original game as well as many others is because of the campiness to it. I love that it took itself more seriously. And this was 2002 graphics on the Nintendo GameCube. It was not that big of a system. The discs were small. And it still looks better than some modern day games, even on the original hardware. The HD remasters, absolutely pick them up if you get the chance. The Crimson Heads were fucking terrifying the first time that you encounter one. You do not expect them to be that fast. the inclusion of Lisa Trevor. Brought a tragic element that wasn't in the original game about the experimentation and just how far Umbrella is willing to go to get what they want. It is, to me, that is the perfect remake. It took everything that was right with the original game, enhanced it, added little things here and there, but it didn't take anything away. It just added what needed to be added to it to make the experience something different. Still familiar. And it's the perfect remake. The other remakes, we'll get to talking about them, but there's an element from that GameCube remake that is missing. Shortly after that, we got the prequel. Resident Evil 0 gets a lot of shit. It does not deserve it. It was trying to tell a chapter of the story that hadn't been told before. It does frustrate the shit out of me from time to time. I will tell you that when playing the HD remaster and getting that platinum trophy, I was so glad that I never had to pick up the controller to play that game again unless I wanted to experience it. It didn't feel like a chore anymore. The inventory system, being able to swap back and forth between the partners, I absolutely loved that. Being able to trade with each other, being able to go back and forth and be like, hey, you wait here while I go and take care of this. That was great mechanic. The lack of item box frustrated me until you get familiar enough with the game where you understand each area has kind of a built-in staging area where you're safe, and usually it's around where there's a typewriter, where you can dump items that you don't need or that you don't need at that moment to quickly run and take care of a task and then come back and retrieve it. Once you get your head around that, the game is not that difficult at all. But a lot of people can't take the lack of item box. The story itself went a little kooky, but I really, really liked what they did with Billy Cohen.
Billy, I just need to know. I need to know the truth. Did you kill 23 people? I'm not going to judge you. I just want to know the truth. Billy?
I'm upset that we haven't had Billy come back at all. I understand he took off and he was like, you were never seeing me again. I didn't know he meant it. But I do hope that he does make a return at some point in the series. Resident Evil 4. Another game I absolutely love, even though nothing was the same afterwards. Not just in Resident Evil, but in the game industry. That was part of this revolution that was going on, where everything started to change. Very much enjoyed the difference in gameplay, but the focus on action over actual horror kind of put me off a little bit. It felt like at that time, the series started to go away from being kind of a grounded horror series, grounded in its own world, to kind of the sci-fi action series. And I started to enjoy that aspect of it less and less. Loved the evolution of Leon's character. The version in Resident Evil 4, to me, is definitive peak Leon. I absolutely love Paul Mercier's voiceover work. He caught that snarkiness and youthfulness that Leon still had at that time, but he was also more serious. He was more in control. He wasn't this rookie anymore. He was seasoned, but we didn't know what had happened just yet. I found it interesting, the introduction of Las Plagas, as opposed to it being a virus, that it's, you know, this infection, which made it interesting, because then in my head I was like, that expands it beyond Umbrella, the world, where it doesn't have to tie into the company. Because I thought at that point that we were moving away from Umbrella being a part of the story and everything. And then Ada comes in. It started to tie everything back to Umbrella, and I would have preferred it if it was just an isolated event. The combat, while it was more heavily focused on combat, I do feel that the combat was intense. The fear didn't come from the creatures themselves. It didn't come from the infected villagers or the Movistadors or anything like that. To me, the fear came from the intensity of the combat, where it's just you're being overwhelmed. It was a different kind of horror that it became. It stopped becoming survival horror and started becoming action horror. Initially, I do remember a lot of people not liking the game when it first came out. I was not one of them. I absolutely loved the game when it first came out. But it was the first time that the community was kind of split on something to such an extreme. Over time, it became kind of revered as... How do I phrase this? Resident Evil 4 is loved in the community as much as the original trilogy combined. So Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, that amount of love and respect for the OG trilogy, a lot of people apply to the original Resident Evil 4. Absolutely deservedly so. However, nothing was the same after that game came out. Nothing for the franchise, nothing for the game industry. So, it was a very pivotal moment.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Okay, so following the changes in Resident Evil after Resident Evil 4, we got Resident Evil 5, which now is apparently an extremely controversial game because of the racial element to it, which during its release was not as pronounced or as not pointed out as it is now. I never saw it as such, and surely if the game had been changed around a little bit, where it's Shiva and Joshua that are, you know, going about this, and they're the ones that discover Jill, who has been missing, and such, it wouldn't have had the same impact if Chris wasn't involved. I 100% understand that from a narrative perspective. If Chris wasn't involved, the controversy around the game would not exist. So it's some people putting a racial element to it that was never intentionally there, never designed and implemented to begin with. So it's got controversy. You can defend points on either side. It didn't take the series any further than Resident Evil 4 did. It kind of took what Resident Evil started, and all it did is it gave your partner the ability to defend themselves, but the AI was not quite there. So sometimes Shiva is batshit crazy and does the opposite of what you want her to do or what you need her to do. And other times, she's on point. It's a gamble. I actually liked the story for what it was. I really, really liked the Lost in Nightmare DLC that came out later. I would not have had that be DLC. I would have had Lost in Nightmare be the opening of the game, where literally it is Chris having a nightmare of when he lost Jill, and then he wakes up from it, and then that's when it's like, Chris, we're here. And that was what was going on while he was in the Jeep being taken to the village where the game actually starts. That's how I would have done it, but I understand that they didn't do it that way for several reasons. Probably to not hint that Jill was the last woman in the game. Spoiler alert.
Him again? Friend of yours? More like an ex-girlfriend. Guy doesn't know when to quit. Welcome to the club.
Resident Evil 6. Love-hate relationship with Resident Evil 6. Obviously, my boy Leon's in it, and I loved his design. That is, aside from the classic RPD uniform, the way it appears in Resident Evil 4 as an alternate outfit, I would say that the first outfit that Leon has in Resident Evil 6 is my favorite look for him. I do find it funny that he got the reputation for loving motorcycles, considering that was not part of Resident Evil 2 originally. Should have been Claire who has a love of motorcycles, but I'm not going to complain. Man looks good. I love the Tall Oaks portion of the game. So when you're in the college campus and when you're in the city, I do feel they did unintentionally make Helena kind of annoying in that she's not giving you information. It's always wait until we get to the church, and it's like, oh, we've got time. But that to me felt the most Resident Evil of the campaigns, and it kind of falls apart after that. With Chris and Pierce, that to me feels the most rewarding of the storylines, in that it shows the kind of the PTSD that Chris is going through. You have to imagine the stress that this man's life has had since the mansion incident, and it's finally starting to take its toll. He's starting to crack. It was fun, not without its frustrating moments, but that's just luck of the draw depending on the situation you find yourself in. But that campaign itself felt the most satisfying from beginning to end. Jake and Sherry's campaign, I fucking hate. I'm gonna say it. I'm not a fan of the Jake character. It's part of that you went too far into the sci-fi, he's a badass, he's the son of Wesker kind of thing. He didn't do anything for me. I hate arrogant characters, and even though I understand why he is the way he is, he didn't do it for me. However, I love what they did with Sherry. I love that they brought her in, and that we see what happened to her. We see her, grown up, and that she's continuing to fight. She's more or less there right alongside Claire and Leon, and she's still in contact with them. And I love that didn't end after she went to a foster care system or something like that. That they kept that connection between the characters, even though it was never explicitly mentioned before. It did lose a lot of the horror roots by the time we got to Resident Evil 6. There were a lot of missteps, but I stayed loyal, because I knew there was always something of the original vision that was still in the later games, even though they swayed way further into the action oriented zone than anything. I still love them. I still love my franchise. A connection that I have with Resident Evil 6 is with voice actor Matt Mercer. So one of the friends of mine from some voice acting workshops that I was a part of, they were, I believe, they were at a movie theater in Burbank, and they were going to go and see something. I unfortunately was on the road driving to San Diego, so I didn't pick up my phone. And when I got where I was going, there was a voicemail, and I saw it was from my friend, and I was like, oh, she never leaves me a voicemail. What's going on? And it was Matt Mercer as Leon, and this is right before the game came out, letting me know that Umbrella was up to no good, and they were requesting my assistance. I absolutely adore that man for leaving that voicemail. And I still have the voicemail recorded. I had it converted to MP3, that way I could like save that and listen to it when I need to. Resident Evil 7.
Family, son.
It is definitely the return to horror. I'm personally not a fan of first-person games. I played my share throughout like high school and my college years and everything. It never quite connected with me. However, with horror games, there is something special about it being in first person, particularly with VR. I remember through connections that I have with Ubisoft Massive from the Division series, because I was one of the first cosplayers to dress up as an agent. First cosplayer in North America, and the third cosplayer in the world. But I also did an original agent. I wasn't creating one from the game. I was myself if I was an agent. And that got the attention of the developers. So, you know, we were in communications, and one year they invited me to kind of join them for the initial star player program that they had. So I got to go to E3 that year. And while, you know, they were kind of doing their things, I was walking the show floor, and they had the demo for Resident Evil 7 up. They recreated the outside of the Baker house that you see in the demo, and inside was the living room with the old CRT TV and the VCR, but you would put on the PlayStation VR headset and play the demo. And while you were playing the demo, they would have somebody kind of come in and fuck with you a little bit, right? So like, you're walking around and you're like looking back and forth and everything like that, and then somebody comes by with like a feather and like touches you and freaks you out. Absolutely immersive experience. Probably the best E3 experience I have had going as a fan. Unfortunately, like, I didn't get to go a second time. I got to go that first day, and when I went to go back the last day, they kind of shut it down because somebody in their fight or flight response, fight got triggered, and the person who was kind of messing with them got like backhanded, I guess, because they came out with a bloody nose. But they were laughing the whole time. They were fine. They kind of knew what they were getting into. But they kind of shut it down after that. So that's an interesting little side experience. Resident Evil 7 definitely brought back the horror element. To me, it doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game, but it feels like a really solid horror game. I know that they have the connections and everything, especially when Not My Chris comes in toward the end, but it never quite felt like it belonged in the world of Resident Evil the way the previous games had.
Now, let's take a look at him.
Resident Evil Village did a better job blending horror and action and gothic folklore. Definitely there's the whole vampires
Man blood.
werewolves. So classic horror movies were seemingly a definite inspiration with that one. It still felt like they were trying to find their footing. Ethan was presented as a much more capable character, which I do appreciate. They didn't go... He didn't feel as useless as he did in Resident Evil 7, but he didn't feel like it was that huge of a character jump like Leon from Resident Evil 2 to Resident Evil 4. His character didn't evolve that much, but it made sense that his character was able to take care of himself as much as he was. Aside from the back and forth with the different family members as villains, I do feel the overall narrative of Ethan trying to get back Rose and save her, keep her safe. That was good storytelling. That I understood. That goes all the way back to like the first Silent Hill game, where Harry Mason is going through all of these horrors for Cheryl, right? So that parallel definitely drew me in, and I can appreciate that. It's a fun game. It's a fun experience. And again, it's one of those where if you get the chance to play it through VR, I suggest doing it. Start with Resident Evil 2. Alright. I am so glad that they did it because we had been asking for it for so long. But it's one of those expectation versus reality kind of things, right? We expected a remake akin to the original, right? To the GameCube remake of the first game. That's not at all what we got. We essentially got an alternate reality version of it. So graphically, stunning game. Like visually, the game is a masterpiece. When they developed the RE engine and saw what it was capable of with 7 and after, Capcom they knew they had gold in terms of the software side. The actors that they got, absolutely wonderful job encompassing personalities of the characters, and the models that they got, I feel do a good job looking as the characters. It does kind of bother me that they use actual models now, in a sense, just because you see that person's face, and if you're familiar with them, then you see that person, you don't see the character so much. But, I mean, the same could be argued with Julia Voth as Jill in the GameCube remake, right? But that's Jill Valentine in my head. It did a decent job balancing nostalgia and innovation. I do wish that we had gotten the A-B scenarios properly, as we had in the previous game, because really, there's very little difference between the two characters' stories. Just have a couple of different environments that they go through, and that's it. And there's some story beats that I feel are missing that could have been better utilized or better implemented. I enjoy it for what it is. I'm not 100% pleased with it. There still feels like there could have been more love for the original. But considering that we actually got a remake of Resident Evil 2 after a decade or more of asking for it, I'm pleased with what we got. I'm satisfied. It hit the itch in the right way, but it still left a little bit to be desired.
All right, let me grab mine.
Shortly after the remake of Resident Evil 2, we got
What the hell is that thing?
I enjoy the game, but it is definitely a disappointment, mostly because of how much got taken out. And there's some aspects that I do not agree with. So, for example, I understand why they had Brad die the way that he does.
Don't think about it. We're gonna make a run for it.
Come on, Jill. We know how this ends.
No, I don't.
To kind of tie in with what happens to Marvin in the Resident Evil 2 remake. But it is so much more horrifying, his death in the original Resident Evil 3. And they took that away from me.
We gotta...
I'm not a fan of the design of Nemesis in the remake. I get why they changed the elements that they did, but to me, that's not Nemesis. That's the version before Nemesis. That's before they figured out how to like properly staple this dude together. And I absolutely don't like his alternate forms as the game went on. It did not feel the same after a certain point in time. Jill, I think they did well with Jill. Wonderful voice actress, great performance. It took me a minute to get used to the redesign of the character, but it didn't hurt any. I know a lot of people were like really, really angry about it, and then they were even more angry when the unlockable classic outfit was skirts instead of a skirt, which didn't bother me all that much, considering that was kind of the fashion in 1999. So that actually felt appropriate to me, but pervs will be pervs. They did a good job recreating the character of Jill. The personality does feel off. It does not at all feel like it's the same Jill from the previous games that we're used to. There's a bitterness to her and an anger to her that was not there before, which does make sense in context of what the character has gone through, but I do miss the other portrayal of Jill. Carlos, I kind of like the remake version more than the original. I like the flirtiness of the one in the original, but there's something about the one in the remake that's now headcanon for me. That's Carlos now. Taking out certain levels of the game, Gravedigger, for example, right? And that whole section of the game, definitely the clock tower. It's such an iconic part of the original that it makes no sense why it wasn't there, other than to subvert expectations. But that's a double-edged sword. It can go well or it can go wrong, and in the case of the Resident Evil 3 remake, it went wrong. They should have tried to be more faithful than they were in terms of the remake. That's my opinion.
I'll let myself out.
The Resident Evil 4 remake. I never asked for it. I am part of that group of fans that feel that society, technology, everything has lined up now where Outbreak needs to be remade. So when they were talking post Resident Evil 3 remake about what's going to happen next, everybody was calling for Outbreak. I was among them. And then we got Resident Evil 4. Again, the enhanced graphics, the controls being updated. It's a fun game. It is a solid game that we didn't need. Because the story's been told. The remake didn't add anything in terms of the narrative or in terms of the franchise. It just kind of retreaded what happened with Resident Evil 3 remake, just with a different character. I feel very strongly that had Capcom, or if Capcom finally, listens and decides to do an Outbreak remake, they will have more success. It's something the fans actually want, like universally. The technology is definitely there now, where it can be done, and their previous attempts at online multiplayer games, they've been interesting, but they've not been successful, really, from my perspective. And I think a big part of that is because the fans we want what we want, and we don't want substitutes. We want an Outbreak remake. There's the rumors, as always, going around that Resident Evil 0 or Code Veronica is going to get remade. Of those two, I would say both of them deserve a remake. Resident Evil 0 deserves a remake that ties it in more strongly and more logically to the events of Resident Evil 1. Code Veronica does not get enough love. Code Veronica, it was the original intention for Resident Evil 3 before the Nemesis story came along. And it deserves more love than it gets. I know that it has a fan following. I know that for some people it's their favorite in the franchise. I applaud them. But it deserves more respect. So going beyond the games, there's the films, Paul W.S. Anderson films.
5 hours ago, Red Queen went homicidal.
Who's the Red Queen?
State-of-the-art artificial intelligence.
The corporation's keeping a few secrets down here.
I actually enjoy the first film. It's kind of a guilty pleasure, partially because I enjoy what was supposed to be the sequels. But the first film, while not what we would have gotten had George Romero been given his opportunity, I did enjoy it. It had enough elements from the games while having an original story, so I didn't know who was going to survive. I didn't have those preconceptions of what was going to happen, and that's exactly what a film adaptation of a video game needs. You need that lack of predictability and familiarity.
What was that?
We're gonna need more ammo.
With the sequel, I have a love-hate relationship with the sequel. I hate it in that it's not what was originally going to be given. So originally, I can't remember where I had read an interview or something about it, but originally the sequel for Resident Evil was going to be kind of a adaptation of the first game, backtracking. So the premise was going to be that the mansion from the first film gets remodeled into the Spencer Mansion. But the remodeling is really just a cover to be able to access the Hive, to get all of the things out of there. But instead of being just an abandoned facility, Umbrella decides to still use it to research things, because they want to research the effects of the virus. But there's another outbreak, but this time it's an accidental one, and that leads to the events from the first game being repeated on film. Obviously, they didn't go that direction. I love the film, as bad as it is. It's kind of B-movie, but that ties in with the original game, so I do love that aspect to it. But it was fun to see. I love Sienna Guillory as Jill. I actually got the chance to work on a film with her called Wicked Within.
Before we begin, I must warn you, this is not a game. We are here to make contact with a young girl who died in this house. Once invited into play, darkness does not go away.
And she is a doll. She was so kind and sweet to all of us behind the camera. I was just a lowly PA on it, and she was so generous, and I adore her. And her being in that film was part of the reason I took the job, because a buddy of mine was like, hey, we need an extra production assistant. Are you available? And I was like, okay, let me kind of like check my schedule and everything, see what work is looking like. And then he was like, oh, Jill Valentine's one of the actresses. And then he had sent me a picture like while they were doing like the makeup and everything on her. And I was like, dude, I'm in. I was only supposed to be there for 1 day. I ended up there for 2 weeks. Pretty much finishing up the shoot from that point on. And it was one of the most pleasant experiences that I had on a film set. I missed the people that I got to work with on that set. The movies got worse as they went along. So it was either too heavily focused on Alice being OP as a character and just kind of the Mary Sue. I know I hate that term, but it kind of applies in the franchise. And the combination of characters' personalities not being the characters. Prime example, Leon Kennedy. When we got the dude, it's like, cool, you look like a solid Leon cosplayer. Awesome. And the personality is not there. But it's the scene where Alice is gonna go after the girl who's been kind of taken by like that massive Uber liquor. And Leon's like, no, leave her. We have to catch, this train out of here. The elevator.
What are you doing? I didn't lose this many friends so you could just walk away. Don't do this. You're more important than she is.
And that's not Leon. So the lack of personalities of the characters being the personalities of the characters started to irk me. And then there are just straight up some sequences that are shot for shot recreations from the games. To me, that's just lazy filmmaking. So the Anderson films, I love the first one. Very, very special spot in my heart for it. But as those films went on, I cared less and less. I own all but the last one. I never bothered buying it. I'm not going to now. The CG movies I enjoy a little bit more. Mostly because they actually tie in to the video games. They're canon to the story. And I love that they use some of the voice actors. When the first CG film came out, I actually got to go to the Hollywood premiere for that. It was in the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood, and it was there that I met Crispin Freeman, who is the voice of essentially a villain in the film, along with several other voice actors that were there for the premiere. And that was my introduction to the world of voice acting. So very quick little meet and greet kind of thing after the film on the way out, and Crispin was like, hey, kind of like the sound of your voice, there's a certain timbre to it. If you're interested, I teach workshops for voice acting. So I took up his offer. I went to some of the workshops, made some great friends there, some of which are still doing voice acting. They're professional voice actors working in the industry. A couple of them are writers where they take like the Japanese script and they translate that to English so that the lip flap and the dialogue all makes sense and is consistent. That was one of my favorite premieres that I ever had the chance to go to, because that experience and those friendships came out. They got better as they went along. So we had Degeneration, we had Damnation, and you'll notice that the CG films are very, very Leon heavy. Damnation I liked because of how intimidating the Mr. X's are. Those tyrants are absolutely frightening, and they are massive. They are like, I think they're the tallest tyrants that exist in I'll have to double check that. Vendetta went a little too far, I think, with the action. It became pretty much Matrix Equilibrium level of action, especially when Chris, who's a marksman with multiple like awards and trophies and championships that he's won, doing straight up gun kata on a rooftop with this guy. It kind of took me out of the film. It's still a fun film, and I love that they brought back Rebecca as like a key character. But yeah, it did not sit well with me because the action was a little too far. Death Island I like, mostly because right before the movie released, my family and I actually took a trip to Sacramento, but we took a day to spend time over in San Francisco, and we went to Alcatraz. So being able to see it in person, and then just a few days later see it recreated in the world of Resident Evil was very much a treat because of how accurate they were able to make some of it. The only problem that I have with Death Island is Jill's personality. It's very bratty, and while I understand the trauma that the character went through, the PTSD she's still got to be experiencing, it felt out of character. It did not feel like a three-dimensional character. It felt like they locked her into one emotion, anger, for the entire film, and it wasn't until the last 30 seconds that she snapped out of it. So I kind of wish that they had done something different with that.
They said the world would end in 2036, but they were wrong. The world ended a long time ago.
The Netflix series is Resident Evil in name only. It did so much wrong, that it barely qualifies to me as being part of the legacy of the franchise. It was a fun series as a science fiction kind of thing. I definitely enjoyed the performances from the younger versions of the characters more than their adult versions. And Lance Riddick
contains the T-virus. The T-virus can make monsters.
I miss that man. He's the reason I kept watching the series. I just, his different versions of the different Weskers was absolutely hilarious and tragic and badass, all at the same time. But other than that, there's very little to take away from that live action Resident Evil series.
He's still alive.
Infinite Darkness series.
You want to talk about it?
I feel they tried to capture what they had with the CG films, but tie it into the remakes, and it didn't quite work. It still felt very Resident Evil, extremely well produced. I will give it that, because the fidelity of the graphics and the performances are there. I just think it was a little bit weak of a story being told, and I didn't like the way it ended with the dynamic between Claire and Leon. It was done to build distance between the characters that I don't think was necessary.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
Welcome to Raccoon City.
They made Leon the Meg of the film.
They did. The cow like levitates in the air and then just like disintegrates.
As well, I enjoy it. It's a guilty pleasure. It is not a good video game adaptation by any stretch of the imagination. There is so much wrong with it, but I do like the actors that in. And I like some of the elements that they got right. They got so much wrong, but to me, it very much feels like a movie that would have come out in 1998, 1999, before Resident Evil Nemesis. If somebody wanted to make a Resident Evil movie to capitalize on the success of the first two games. That very much feels to me that's what that movie would have been. So that's a guilty pleasure when I'm just like, I'm in the mood for watching Resident Evil. I don't want to pay too much attention to it. I just kind of need it there for background noise or to just kind of get into that mindset. That's the movie that I'll turn to. The comics, I absolutely loved the Wildstorm comics. They were great, and they only lasted, 5 issues? That was the first time I had to hunt down a comic book, was for that first issue. I ended up discovering a comic shop that I had no clue existed for that first issue. S.D. Perry did a series of novels. I have my original set. I have several sets. I have my original set, and I have a set from when they re-released them with alternate covers, and I have a second set of the original covers that I have in my classroom for my students to be able to read. Now, with the anniversary coming up, it's the appropriate time. I'm going back, I'm rereading them. The first book I would read every March. So kind of as an anniversary of the first game, that would be my thing, is I would read a chapter a day, and then once I was done with reading this, I would play the game on the 22nd. The novelizations that S.D. Perry wrote are absolutely wonderful, considering the limited amount of backstory and everything that existed at the time, as well as in between the adaptations of games are original stories with the characters, and she did a phenomenal job with that. So if ever you get the chance to get those novels, I highly, highly suggest them. Another book that I would recommend is Itchy Tasty by Alex Aniel, known as CVX Freak online. There is so much depth that he goes into with his interviews and his little connections that he has between the franchise and some of the older developers. And it's interesting. Like, I sat there and I think I read the entire book like over the course of a day. Like, I had the day off work and I just sat there and read the entire day from cover to cover. And I'm very glad that I was able to kind of help back that, to get that book to exist. Because I feel, as a Resident Evil fan, it's important to know the history of it, not just enjoy the games, but if you're like a die-hard fan of it, you should know where it began and how it got to where it is. So that is definitely a book recommendation I would have. There's also the documentary George Romero's Resident Evil, directed by Brandon Salisbury. That is amazing. It details the history of what could have been had George Romero been allowed to write and direct the Resident Evil movie as he was originally intended to. So that is absolutely worth a watch for any fan of the franchise. The board games are fun that SFG has made. And I've been having like a lot of fun the last couple of years painting the miniatures here in the classroom during lunch with the kids. That's been fun. I know Steamforged Games said that they were going to do Resident Evil 4 as a board game. I hope they do. It's kind of been silent on that front. But I really want them to use the models from the original game. I would totally back like 2 sets just so that I could take some, paint the little miniatures, and then put them on actual bottle caps so that I can say that I have the actual collection of the bottle cap figurines from the original Resident Evil 4. I really locked into the Resident Evil channels on YouTube during the pandemic. Like, several of them helped me get through the pandemic. They helped me keep my sanity. For sure, the top 3, Sphere Hunter, Ink Ribbon, and Residents of Evil, in that order. Like, I discovered Sphere Hunter because I can't remember what I was watching, and then it was her breakdown on the remake of Resident Evil 1, and she said all the thoughts that I had, all the things that I loved about it, so precisely and eloquently. And I've been a fan ever since. I adore the woman. And then shortly after that, I discovered Ink Ribbon, and Kai just seems like the dude that I would like want to hang out with. And even having the same conversation 7 times, it would feel like the first time having the conversation about the games with him. He just has that personality to him, and I love how fun he is with the content that he makes. And with Residents of Evil, they are living the dream. If I had told myself back in like 2005 after graduating film school, like, dude, log in on YouTube, like, start playing the game, you'll make a career out of it, I would probably be one of them, or I would have a channel very similar to. And aside from being a fan of the videos that they were making and the playthroughs, when they started producing short films, they're fans that are making films for fans, and it shows. They love the series. Beggy especially, like, she's a lore hound, and you can tell that, like, she respects and she loves the narrative as much as she does. And I was heartbroken with The Keeper's Diary. Absolutely love it, but I'm heartbroken because there was a good chunk of time where I did not have internet access outside of work, and I couldn't access any of their content for a good while. And when I did finally have access, I had found out that 2 days before was when the crowdfunding for The Keeper's Diary had ended, and that broke my heart. But I was a supporter of it. I was looking forward to it. I hyped the hell out of it when it was released. So when the chance came to help with Resurrection, I didn't hesitate. I knew that I was going to be a part of that in some fashion or another, that I was going to help make that happen. And I feel very honored that I was fortunate enough that things worked out financially, time-wise and everything, to become an assistant producer on that one and back the project as I had. Just because as a fan of the franchise, you have few opportunities, unless you have a following such as those channels, to really show how much you love this series that had been so special to you your entire life. So I took that opportunity. I was not going to let that pass by a second time. So the series obviously evolved in its fandom and in it being like different forms of media. Sometimes the games influence the film, sometimes the films influence the games, and vice versa. But I've been there from beginning to end. I'm going to continue to be there. So obviously, Resident Evil is special to me for several reasons. Right? I grew up with the franchise. I am paranoid as hell about taking any sort of medicines because of it. Like, it's a struggle to convince me to take Tylenol if I have a headache. And migraines run in my family, so when they hit hard. But I still don't want to take medication because I don't want to turn into a zombie. It helped influence my love of horror. I was already a horror hound to begin with, but it really cemented that I love the zombie genre. I love the philosophical debate of what people would do, how they would handle the situation, how far are they going to protect themselves and their loved ones. You know, are you the hero or the villain of somebody else's story? It helped me pursue filmmaking. As a teenager, I was interested in doing makeup and special effects, and, you know, was self-taught in high school, learning how to do all of that, to going into film school right after high school and learning all of that aspect of it, working on projects with friends. Even trying to get a what was supposed to have been a Resident Evil fan film that kind of degenerated into something else by the time it was shot in film.
Even the video I did for my thesis in film school was a short documentary appreciating zombie movies, and a huge part of that appreciation comes from my playing Resident Evil all those years ago.
It influenced me in so many different ways. I finally, after the scene, it was in 2012 that I finally cosplayed as a Leon, who's somebody I'd wanted to cosplay as since I was probably 14 or 15 years old and never had the confidence to. So I finally did it. Classic RPG uniform, and then later on, the remake uniform. I updated my Division 2 cosplay to include the RPD vest, Soon after that, Massive announced their Resident Evil crossover event for the 25th anniversary. So quickly, I earned all of the awards, and my Shade agent has been wearing the RPD vest ever since. So in my head canon, my agent is a survivor of Raccoon City. As long as the game servers are up, I am never changing off of that uniform.
Welcome to the bridge.
I even got myself a Resident Evil tattoo. Fun fact, when writing a fan film script for a film class, I actually was originally going to have a scene where Leon is packing things up, saying goodbye to a family member before heading to Raccoon City. And in his packing things up, his uniform included a 6-point adjustable vest, which was not part of the uniform back in 2004. It was still the classic thing. So I unknowingly predicted the costume design of the remake almost 20 years before it happened. So that's kind of cool that I was on the same wavelength of the universe in that way. In taking photos for my Division cosplay, we went to a decommissioned prison here in Los Angeles, me and a buddy of mine, Frank, and we had filmed there previously a short horror film called Hollowed Halls, directed by Ebony Winston. And it didn't occur to me until re-watching the old George Romero directed Resident Evil 2 commercials. That's the same filming location. So I didn't even process that I have filmed on the same location as George Romero. Not just that, but it was where he filmed the live-action commercial for Biohazard 2. So now those experiences are that much more special. I take emergency preparation very seriously, especially as a teacher. I take lockdowns and drills very seriously because I'll explain to my students, like, if I'm ready for zombies, I'm ready for anything else the world can throw at me. They laugh, but then it makes sense. Resident Evil is in my classroom. It's a part of me. And I love that some of the students that I have come to love the franchise too because of that. I mean, I got my old CRT out of storage, I got my original system out of storage, my original games, and I let them play the games the way that I had experienced them, more or less. Recently, I went to a meet and greet and got to meet Charlie Kravlovsky, so that was a 30-year-old dream come true. Like, I still can't believe that I got to meet that man, and he is such a sweetheart. He is so kind and generous with his time and patient with his fans, and I love how sincere he's embracing the fans. Considering he didn't know about the community and he didn't know about how big the franchise was for so long, and he's one of us. He's not just, the guy who's been on my screen since I was 13. He's a fan as well now. And something that made that moment special is not only did that teenage dream come true for me, but one of my former students was there, and I got to share that experience with him. So that makes it a whole different level of being special. I also want to take a moment to give other fans the chance to express in their own words what the Resident Evil franchise means to them and why it is special in their hearts. Here's a collection of clips sent to me by those that were willing to participate.
Basically, to sum up 1996's Resident Evil, first released on PlayStation, I experienced it when I was 13. What a harrowing experience. I didn't really feel anything quite like it at the time. Something was very mesmerizing about experiencing the Spencer Mansion, both as Jill and Chris. I preferred playing as Jill because the cutscenes are funnier, voice acting's funny. I'm not saying anything new that hasn't been said about this game, but what I like about it is that there's just no other game that feels like it. Between the score, the enemies, the locations, the art style is great. The weapons are pretty fun. I just prefer the original trilogy, if not just the original game. Not its remake, which is a fine game on its own, but I really feel like the original Resident Evil is where it's at.
Boulder Punch here. What makes the Resident Evil series so special to me? No other series has hit that same high that the fixed camera titles do. No other survival horror titles juggle resource management, level design, or atmosphere like the classic titles do. The remake of 1 being the peak of what the series offers on the survival horror front. But its approach to action horror that emerged from 4, no one has topped it, including the remake. I go back and forth whether I prefer 4 or the remake of the first game. Depending on what day of the week you ask me, either one is my favorite game ever made. Amazing games with very different approaches.
What Resident Evil means to me, it's the gold standard for combat design in horror games. RE has something for everyone. It caters to casual and hardcore gamers alike, and I think that's something we need more of in the industry.
What was your introduction to Resident Evil?
I think it was a Game Pro magazine that I got as a kid, and somewhere near the back it had a guide, like a walkthrough to it. And I just read the walkthrough that took you through the mansion, the courtyard, and the guardhouse. And I just thought it looked so cool. And then eventually I ended up at a Blockbuster and rented it on the PlayStation, took it home, and became like the first game that I ever like really fell in love with as a kid.
What's one of your fondest memories tied to the games?
I guess, yeah, I've talked about several of these in my videos, but the two that come to mind are tied to the original. One is that it was the first game that actually got me and my younger sister to become friends, because we used to argue a whole lot as little kids, and this was the first thing that brought us together, where I would be playing the game and she'd be sitting there staring at the TV, and then eventually grew up to play the games herself. So it was kind of the first thing that brought us together. There's that, and the other memory that sticks out is the first Snake boss fight against Yawn, where you get to that door and it's got the bloody handprint on the wall, and then you're like, ooh, how do I get in here? And then finally you get the snake room key, and you go back there to open the door to see what's there, and then that's where the game would freeze. It was a scratched copy from the Blockbuster, and so I never got to open the door, and then I had to take the game back, and then I would rent it again and play it from the beginning, and then get to the snake door, and the game would freeze again. And so that's all I knew of the game for the several times I rented it, until I could finally get my parents to buy it for me.
Do you have a favorite game in the series?
I guess my favorite is the GameCube remake of RE1, but my favorite of the original trilogy would be Nemesis. And I like 7, I like some of it, and don't like other parts. I love RE4, but it doesn't break like the top 3 over the originals for me.
You kind of mentioned the relationship, the friendship between you and your younger sister starting, because of the games. Aside from that, why else is the series something special to you?
Oh, I don't know. It's one of those games that comes along and makes you realize that you could like something that you never even knew. Because I loved horror as a kid, but I never played a horror game. Everything I played before that was fighting games, beat 'em ups, shooters, stuff like that, and the odd sim game here and there. But Resident Evil, the whole idea of you only have 8 spaces in your inventory, and you got to find a key, and you can't hold this because you're holding too much of that, and you have to choose: are you going to carry the shotgun, or are you going to carry this? Having to save, choose when you're saving, dying, and losing progress. It was just a whole new flow of gameplay for me that has become like my favorite genre since then. And I don't know, I just thought that it really brought an important mixture of gameplay mechanics together that, you know, has stood the test of time. And it was also, I also have another very specific memory of my mom sitting on the end of the couch watching me play, and she would just watch me play Resident Evil, but she never watched me play any other game. And I always remember that she said that she liked watching me play Resident Evil because it felt like she was watching a movie. As opposed to, you know, games today that feel like movies because they essentially are, like they're on rails, or they over prioritize spectacle and cinematic moments, or they're filled with 15 hours of cutscenes, or you're just, you know, slowly walking as your character's talking for the, you know, for 20 minutes. That's not exactly fun for someone to watch who's not playing. And I think what made it so interesting to her was the fixed camera. The game is directed like a movie is. Every single frame, every angle is handcrafted to frame the scene and make you feel a certain way, or to emphasize tension, or to draw your eyes to a certain item or a door. And yeah, if you're just watching someone play Resident Evil, it has the aesthetic feel of a well-directed horror movie.
I actually brought a little show and tell. Here's my original copy of Director's Cut that I got in 1999. Right here in New York, by the way, in Brooklyn. And it's interesting. I had a very unique upbringing where, you know, gaming was like a huge part of my family. So one day my brother just comes home and he has Resident Evils 1, 2, and 3 with him. So I actually played those games back to back.
That in like one sitting?
Well, over the course of a summer, because I had to figure out puzzles and stuff. But for me personally, and I think a lot of people in here tonight can relate to this, Resident Evil isn't really a hopeless form of horror. It's horror driven by hope. And every game, this game seems like it too, is about overcoming impossible odds and your horrors, your fears. My favorite thing was always, you know, struggling through the first playthrough, but then on subsequent playthroughs, kind of like replaying and like just destroying all the horror. And that's what's special about Resident Evil. It's a horror that has hope.
What's going on, guys? This is Adrian Maldonado. I've known Keelan since I was in junior high, and he was actually the first one to introduce me to the franchise when it first came out. He was actually also the first person to show me like all the collections he's had, like the director's cuts, the analog versions of the games, the different scenarios. And then second game came out, we were excited. I got my own copy, basically because my dad, he was like, I'm gonna get you your own copy. Played it, loved it, got scared, and then the highly anticipated third one came out. This was in 1999. And Keelan told me about it, and I was so stoked about it. But I couldn't buy the game because I couldn't afford it. Keelan got his copy, but like way before me. And I was jealous. I was excited for him, but also jealous because I wanted to play it. Keelan, being the nice guy that he is, he let me borrow it. He let me borrow the third game. And I was like, oh, I'm going to guard this with my life. You know, this is the holy grail for me. And I went home. My mom was the typical Mexican Catholic churchgoer. So I played the game, finished it. Again, this was not my game. This was lent out to me by Keelan. And I played the game and I was just so excited. I put it away. Once I was done, I put it away, put it in the case, and I put it in my room. This is the second day that I had the game with in my possession. I came in, grabbed the trash bag, actually picked it up, and I look in the trash bag because I'm throwing a bunch of other trash inside it. I see the game inside. I was like, oh my God. Did she really just throw it out? And I'm reaching for it, and I noticed it was only one half of the game. She had basically broken the game in half, the disc itself. I went into hysterics. I started flipping out. I was so scared because this was a brand new game. It wasn't mine, and I thought I was going to lose Keelan's friendship. But the first person I saw was my mom, and I knew it was my mom that did it because there was nobody else. My mom thought it was my game, and she's telling me, "You are not allowed to play these games. This is not of God." She tells me, it's her words. She tells me, "This is not of God. But I don't want you playing these games. These are evil. Look at the name. It even says evil on it." And I'm like, "Oh my God, Mom, okay. But this is not my game still." And she goes, "Well, then whose is it? So I can talk to them." I'm like, "Mom, this is Keelan's. You know Keelan. Since we were kids." And she goes, "Oh my God. Oh, call him and let him know what happened." And I just said, "Okay, time to face the music." I call Keelan. I'm not a crier, that much of a crier. He's never heard me cry before. And then I'm bawling on the other side of the phone. Tears running down my face. And Keelan's like, "What's going on?" "Dog, you're not gonna believe what just happened, but your game is broke." And she goes, "What?" "Yeah, my mom broke. She found the game and she broke it. It's in half. I'm so sorry, Keelan. I'm scared that I'm going to lose your friendship." And he's like, "It is okay. It is okay. You're fine. Don't worry about it." And again, he's trying to comfort me on the other, on his side. And I'm still flipping out on my mom. And, I was telling Keelan, how can I repay this? What can I do? And Keelan's like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." And in the back of my mind, I'm just dreading, he can tell me that he's fine. Don't worry about it. But I get the feeling that he's just like clenching his teeth. So the guilt was just basically killing me. So what I did was, behind my mom's back, I took a couple odd jobs with my dad and, worked the swap meet. I even found a place where he sold video games that were at the swap meet with like the fake labels and stuff. The game was actually legit, but the covers were altered, and I was able to get him the game without my mom noticing. Recently, my mom said, "Whatever happened with that situation with me breaking his game?" I said, I don't know. Keelan hasn't told me anything since then. It's been, oh man, more than 20 years. But that story it's basically the reminder of how controversial also but also how badass that the entire series is to, be coming out with movies, spin-offs and stuff like that. I'm still a big fan. I even got like the remakes. I still play them. They still make me actually jump out of my seat. And lots of fun. And lots of gore. It's just now that when my mom comes to fly out to visit me in Virginia, I have to hide them. She has. No matter if I'm 17 or 43, she'll still come at me.
3D Ways shared with me, "I've always wanted to create objects and bring them from the world of video games into real life. I pour passion into every piece I make, paying close attention to the details that matter most to me. Seeing the photos people send me, proudly showcasing my work in their collections, brings joy both to them and me. I love chatting with fans all over the world and sharing our passion for Resident Evil. I will never be grateful enough to all the people who support me and who have helped me get to where I am today."
Resident Evil is special in a lot of ways. It's hard to pick just one. But I mean, I've never had another survival horror game quite as it captured me the way that has. playing it with my family and the relationships that we built through that's probably the most special part about it.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Renegade Operative here. I wanted to make a short recording talking about my experience with the 30 years of Resident Evil. I've been a long-time Resident Evil fan since the beginning. I seen the first zombie bite into Chris's neck, and I remember seeing that visual, and that just gave me this jarring, intense euphoria that I never really felt in a video game before. It was harrowing, it was intense, it was suspenseful. It was probably one of the better moments of my life, really, because I was seeing something amazing being pioneered on screen. Resident Evil has been with me for the longest time, just being this scared child and growing up to playing Code Veronica as my first RE game and just really enjoying it and getting into the series. So as we celebrate and we go into the 30th anniversary and also the release of Resident Evil Requiem, I would say that Resident Evil is prolific. It stands out as one of the longest running survival horror franchises of all time, and that's very important. That's very cool that you can have a series around for 30 years where some franchises don't even get to see that long. Capcom really raised the bar by being experimental. They raised the bar by being prolific. They raised the bar by innovating time in and time out on what true horror, true fear really means. And I wouldn't have it any other way as a fan. I believe that all of this stuff is important to me. Whether it's Resident Evil, Silent Hill, I'm just glad that as a horror fan, all of this stuff is thriving, so to speak, and doing really well. And I cannot wait for the future of Resident Evil, considering that they have been drowning us with remakes and all of these ideas, and they keep innovating themselves. I want to stay along for the ride as much as possible as a fan who loves deep diving into the lore, the characters, Wesker, Leon, Chris, Claire, and hopefully we get more substance and depth as we go into the 30th. So once again, I'm just honored to be here, man. It feels really good. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be a part of this fandom. And I want to say thank you so much, Capcom, and thank you so much to the Resident Evil community for just standing the test of time alongside with the remnants of Raccoon City, which we're going back to. But it's been a hell of a journey, and I am glad to be here 100%. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening to me geek out about Resident Evil, and you guys take care. Here's to another 30 years of pure survival horror.
I'm Ward Sexton, the title voice mainly of Resident Evil. Tell you the truth, I wasn't particularly aware of anything special back in the day. In fact, I barely saw any visuals. Only remember I almost wrecked my voice back then. I recorded several versions, including Biohazard, and 1 through 10 at that. As it turns out though, and this is special, RE fans from all over, the US, Brazil, Europe, and so on, have reached out to me over the years for various reasons. And I have come to think this franchise means a lot to a lot of people. So it's special. And how cool is it that I'm part of it? Very cool.
Catherine Disher here. I was the voice of Jill Valentine in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. And gosh, I know you're making this video essay. Wow, 30 years ago. That's kind of amazing. That franchise has become Capcom's greatest franchise. I don't think probably they thought 30 years ago that the fans would still be around and still so enthusiastic for Resident Evil all these years later. I think there's a reason for that. And it's part of the reason that I'm really proud to be a part of the franchise and the history of the franchise is the characters. For me, the characters are incredibly compelling. The gameplay in those early games, those tank controls, really difficult, but oh my goodness, like whoever, I have such respect for whoever can make it all the way through my game. I'm not very good at video games, and I really suck at playing my own. But I can shoot, but I can't run away. And I keep getting killed again and again and again. Nemesis is so scary. Anyway, one of the reasons I am so proud to be a part of it is because of Jill Valentine. She is one of the first playable female characters in a horror survival game. And boy, you know, especially in my game, in Nemesis, the original, by the end of that game, when she says those immortal words, "You want stars? I'll give you stars," she has become a badass, and she earns that line. I really do feel by the end. I did not know when I was recording it. I mean, we spent like 3 weeks in the recording studio, and the guys came over from Japan, the Capcom guys, and they kept bringing other actors in to read with me, the other characters, but I was in there for 3 weeks. It was sort of the most intense video game experience I've ever had before or since. So I did not know that she was wearing what she was wearing, a mini skirt and a tube top. I sort of assumed she was in tactical gear, and it was only until, I think it was 4 months later, they came back and we did some additional dialogue recording, and they showed me the art, and I was surprised that that's what she was wearing. But I love it, right? I love that original outfit. It has become an iconic outfit, and those boots, the sound that those boots make, I love it. She really kicks ass. And as I said, she becomes more of a badass as that game goes on, and I feel she really deserves that line at the end. I also think not just the character, but also the dialogue in that game, the diary entries. I swear I remember recording more diary entries than actually appear in the game. So somewhere, I guess, there's a digital file with me and doing more diary entries. But the dialogue in that, it was a real character. Felt like a really three-dimensional character for me to play. And you know, having to fight her way out of the city. I just felt that it was all very well done. The dialogue was great. The diary entries were really fascinating for me as an actor. And I just really, really enjoyed it. And I love, even though I'm terrible at playing the game, I do, you know, now that it's out, now that I can get my son to download it for his PS5, then I can practice by myself. Because I need to be in a dark room without someone yelling, press A, and me going, I know, I am pressing A. But I've watched so many playthroughs, and I just enjoy it. I enjoy everything about Resident Evil and having played Jill. And I've been going to Comic-Cons the last couple of years, and I have so enjoyed meeting all of the Resident Evil fans. And, you know, sometimes I go to a lot of these Comic-Cons because of my work with Marvel Animation, but when you sign something for a Resident Evil fan, it very rarely gets turned around and put up on eBay. These are the fans of Resident Evil. You guys bring us your original games and your original manuals, and I know that you're never going to sell them, that they are for you, and that's how loyal and enthusiastic Resident Evil fans are. So it's been just wonderful meeting all the fans over the last couple of years. As I said, had no idea that Resident Evil, and they would keep releasing them, remaking them, and then re-releasing the original ones as well. Had no idea that it would last 30 years and counting. Thank you for including me, and in your video essay commemorating the 30th anniversary of Resident Evil, and happy 30th anniversary, Resident Evil. Who would have thought?
Nostalgia, REBH, or Resi Claire, wrote in a very heartfelt response, stating, "The reason Resident Evil is so special to me is because my mom was the one who taught me how to play it, starting with the DualShock version of the original, and later my sister taught me how to play Resident Evil 3. Since my mom is no longer with me, I play and collect Resident Evil items in her honor."
Resident Evil is a franchise that has always sort of explored people's attempt to transcend the limitations of humankind. So as I see it, you look at Mother Miranda, you look at Alex Wesker, these folks want to transplant the consciousness of one person into another person. You look at folks like Wesker, who wants to cleanse the slate of humanity. You look at all of these other figures in the series. Dylan Blake wants to do something similar. They want to pursue the next step in evolution or transcend the limits of what humans can do. And you look at Requiem, you look at our newest release, and what is it? It's an attempt to have the memories of our great leaders of the human race live on through another vessel, through blood transfer and memory transfer. Every time, I always see that. It's always someone trying to rewrite humanity in their own image and go beyond the limits of we thought we could do as human animals.
It's the fact that it just scared people. You know, that moment, everybody's got that moment that they remember. Their dad, mom and dad weren't home. My big brother let me play the game. You know, scared the heck out of me, but I couldn't. But I kept playing it, and so that's why we're having this conversation. That's why we're still, you know, it's been 30 years since I started at Wesker, and that's why. So and I like that moment. I like to hear. I ask people, like, what was your, and everybody knows right away. It's like, oh yeah, so that's what makes Resident Evil special to me.
Oh yeah, Keelan, thank you. Yes, what makes Ari special to me? Okay, let me think about it. Well, I do think one of the first things that makes Ari special is that we're all from different eras of the game, and somehow we're all, I mean, most people, it still reunites and gathers everybody from the classics to the remakes to the first-person titles, and I'm so happy to see that there's like such a big community now. But Ari, what got me into Ari and what made it so that I'm still playing it today, it was for sure the fun gameplay and the characters. I immediately loved my first characters I saw were Leon and Claire. Immediately loved them. I thought the story was very interesting, that you had different types of virus. Most zombie games is a post apocalypse settings where everyone's dead and there's zombies everywhere. Resident Evil was very different from that. It was mostly people live with virus, they live with zombies, but it's not like an apocalypse, you know what I mean? It's not the end of the world. I thought this story was really interesting. I thought it was very different from other zombie movies or games. And so yeah, I got hooked to the story. I played RE2 and RE4, got hooked to the story, got hooked to Leon and Claire, and then yeah, then I started cosplaying them eventually, and it made me a Twitch partner. I met many friends. Yeah, I met many friends thanks to Ari, and I met so many good people and my entire Twitch community. So yeah, Ari is extremely special to me. It's the reason why I'm here today, and it's one of my favorite characters ever. I love this franchise. I really do, and I'm so glad that it's still alive 30 years later. Oh god, thank you. It is a big part of my life, yeah. It changed my life, truly. Between the characters and stories and then all the people I met and having my entire Twitch, that made Ari very, very special to me.
Hey everybody, Nick Apostolidis here, the voice and mocap actor of Leon Kennedy in the Resident Evil remakes and also now RE9 Requiem. Yes, very special year, 30th anniversary. It's not every day an ongoing video game franchise gets to celebrate its 30th birthday with flying colors. They're still going strong, I think stronger than ever. And I've been there since year 2. I've been a die-hard fan since 1998. And since then, I have bonded with countless friends over the franchise. My little brother, I got to get him into it, my little cousin, and we trauma bond. Surviving the horrors together on the couch, figuring out like what we should do, when we should go in that room because there's 10 zombies, where to find ammo, so on and so forth. It's just a really fun formula of anxiety, survival instincts, and you name it. It's always been there in my life, and now that I'm a part of the franchise and I get the rare opportunity to collaborate with a favorite video game developer of mine is extra special, and I'm honored to be in this position, and just simply collaborating with Capcom has been a dream come true. I began that 10 years ago, and I'm still in a surreal state. I still almost can't believe it, but here we are. And so, to any new fans watching this, go play Resident Evil because it's one heck of a franchise. Keelan, thanks for having me on here, and everybody, good luck with Requiem if you play. Happy 30th to Resident Evil.
At the time when we did it, it was just the coolest thing I'd ever done in acting, and you know, I was like an aspiring actor in Tokyo at the time, and everything about it just felt like really special. I remember putting the costume on for the first time and thinking, wow, this is just cool as F. And you know, and then it was just called Biohazard then, and then all of this kind of caught up to me around 2018 when people started finding me on Facebook, and they're like, hey, are you the original Chris Redfield? And I was like, yeah, what's the big deal? Because not being much of a gamer, I never put it together that Resident Evil and Biohazard were the same thing. So then in more recent years, it's just become this kind of second life of like all these cool things that I wanted to do, like acting, you know, and now I get to go to these conventions. It's also been amazing to reconnect with some of the original cast, especially this guy, Greg Smith. And you know, we only knew each other briefly in Tokyo, but it's been amazing reconnecting, and now it's like we're like best friends, you know, and I wish he didn't live so far away. You know, and just getting to meet fans has been very special, and getting to hear their stories, and of course getting to do all these really cool fan films. It's just been a blessing for me.
Keelan, thank you so much for reaching out. I love that you're celebrating Resident Evil's 30th anniversary. It's so exciting. It's amazing to see just the passion and enthusiasm for, gosh, the decades of love of this franchise and these characters. So yes, all of the enthusiasm. You asked me what makes Resident Evil special to me. And, ooh, I mean so many things. I feel like getting to be a part of the Resident Evil franchise really changed my life in so many beautiful ways. It introduced me to some of my favorite people and artists on the planet, and it allowed me to meet and connect with so many fans and people from so many walks of life, and that's just so special. I love the relationship that people have to these characters because they're legacy characters and they have, you know, pervaded through so many years of media and games and stories. It's really cool to see how different people see and interact and engage with the characters that they love. And it's a joy to just get to be a small part of that exciting legacy. So a very exciting 30th Resident Evil anniversary.
I would have to say it's the fans. Everyone that loves me and reaches out and is a part of this community has been so great. So it's really about you guys.
Honestly, I think it's for me personally, it was the bonding experience that I had with my cousins. You know, I as a kid, they were my older cousins and I looked up to them. And going through that game for the first time, it was Resident Evil 2, the original. We kind of experienced that together. So when, going from Super Nintendo to Resident Evil 2 was mind-blowing. We had that experience together. When you encounter the first liquor and you're thinking to yourself, what the hell is that? We experienced that together, and it was us playing that and having that moment, as kids, is something that just kind of stuck with me. And then when Resident Evil 3 came out, because right after 2 I went to 1, and then when 3 came out, I had that same experience now with my younger cousin Corey. And so, he got to go through that same, it's terrifying, it's amazing, it's terrifying, but you can't stop. It's just something about it that keeps you going, and you end up working together to overcome, all these obstacles. So it's that moment that I have, be your loved ones, friends, whoever it is. For me, it was my cousins, and I think that's kind of what stuck with me. And over the course of years, meeting so many cool people that had a very similar situation that I had, and I met so many new friends because of it. It means a lot. I'm trying to summarize it right now, but yeah, I think that's the highlight.
Hi, I'm Nick Van Rex. My dad was the first person to introduce me to this iconic franchise because I used to watch how he played the first Resident Evil game for the PlayStation 1. In this moment, of course, that amazed me because I never seen something like that in my life. Then, when I grew up, I started my own journey into this franchise, and that's what I love Resident Evil. And since that day until now, I keep my same passion for this franchise.
Honestly, it's the family and friendship that I've made throughout all of these years. I remember getting the PlayStation for the first time and playing Resident Evil with my little brother. And the first zombie that popped up, he was so scared he threw the controller up. So I grabbed it, I was Jill, figured out how to equip my gun, and it actually helped me and my brother, and oddly enough, me and my father bond. And then I just, throughout the community, throughout all of these years, I have made so many lifelong friends, and there's just something about Resident Evil that I just cannot explain. There's just something, it's got like a chokehold on me, like the horror, but it's like cheesy but laughable and lovable all at the same time. It's very complex, basically.
This is Joe White, the voice of Chris Redfield from Resident Evil Remake from 2002. I'm very happy to receive your question, and there are a couple of things that make Resident Evil very special to me. Number one, it was the first video game that I ever voiced. I had been working at that time at Disney Animation, and I had started doing voiceover, working for the company, and would do something called scratch dialogue, which is essentially temporary removable voiceover recording that they do for films to work out dialogue and timing and all that stuff. And then normally that voiceover is removed and replaced with the voices of the actual actors who are cast in the film. And that was how I got my start doing voiceover. And it was not long after that I went to have lunch with my wife at a company that she was working at down in Hollywood, a company called Sound Deluxe, which is the company that did all the sound recording for the game, for the remake, for Resident Evil 1 Remake. And while I was there having lunch with my wife, the casting person for Resident Evil came in and said, "Hey, we're looking for someone that can voice match the original guy from the 96 version of Resident Evil." And they said, "Do you think you might be able to match this?" So I did. I went in and read against the recordings of the original guy that they had, a guy named, what was his name? Ramsey Scott McCullough. And he was the original Chris Redfield from the first game, and unfortunately he passed away in 2000. And so they were looking for someone who sounded like him to do the remake. And I got the part. So very special to me in that it was my first video game. The other thing too is that I think Resident Evil Remake was a very important game in the world of video games because of the graphics techniques that they used. It really set apart remake from all of the other stuff that was going on at the time with the pre-rendered backgrounds, which still look beautiful to this day. 25 years later, you can still play that game and feel like you're playing a relatively new game. So it really broke some molds and set some new bars, and I think that it was very important in that sense. What else? I think that the game has a special aura about it. If you talk to people and you ask them what's the best remake ever made, Resident Evil remake is generally mentioned. It's still a game that can be played 25 years later, and not a whole lot of games you can say that about. And I think that's about it.
Wow. It's been 30 years. That's insane. I still vividly remember the first time I played Resident Evil. I was a guest at my cousin's house, and I was allowed to rent a video game, and this was pre the internet, so I had no idea what it was, but I saw the cover for Resident Evil, and I thought, that looks interesting. I am a big fan of horror films, so I was curious about what this game was. And I was very, very surprised to see a game that was so unique, at least to me at the time. I had never experienced a game that had a real narrative inside the game, usually maybe instruction manuals, but a narrative that made it feel like I was experiencing a horror movie. But I was playing it, and it was shocking and scary, and it was fun, and after that point, I was a fan, through and through. Every single new release came out, I got on day one. I played it, I loved it, still love the series to this day. It changed my life drastically. Obviously, I began collecting various Resident Evil things over the years, ended up making a whole room of Resident Evil, as many fans have. We're a very passionate fan base. But honestly, Resident Evil, it changed my perspective on what a video game could be. And in doing so, it made me more of a video game player than I was originally. Now I play so many games, and it's largely because Resident Evil made me look at gaming differently than I had before that point. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't even be in the career I'm in today, where I work in video games. That is because of Resident Evil. So I hope Resident Evil has a fantastic 30th anniversary, and I hope we have another 30 plus years of more Resident Evil stories to come. Thank you, Resident Evil and Capcom.
I'm just so lucky. I reckon I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I got picked up on the street in Tokyo. I wasn't laying in the gutter or anything. I got picked up on the street, recognised. I was teaching over there, so I had no idea about even being in a movie. It was just a blast. It was so much fun. And we got to run through bushes or creek beds, and I remember shooting at things and pretending I was shooting at things. It was great fun. And then I forgot about it. Well, I didn't forget about it, it went to the back of my mind. Yeah, I did it. Didn't know what I'd done because they didn't tell us the name of it. They didn't tell us what we were doing. It was real hush-hush stuff. And it was only like in 2018, I think Charlie connected something to me, and it all started happening from there. And then 2022, Andrew Solo, he kind of contacted me and said he's getting the band back together, kind of thing, and would I be able to join him for an interview? I went, yay. And it was just great reconnecting. It was 20, nearly 30 years since I was at Charlie and Eric, and within an hour going, hey, it was like, yeah, long lost friends. Andrew then made Keeper's Diary, which I saw, and I was blown away with the quality of Keeper's Diary. And then Andrew put this crowdfunding together and did Resurrection, and for me, I'm an old retired principal. It is the best fun I can ever have, and it's just so much fun. And the fan, and you say, what? That's what it means to me. But the other thing I get out of it is the the adoration the fans have for Resident Evil, the way they like it, the way they know my character better than I know my character, I think, and it's just so good. And connecting with the fans at Comic-Cons, at signings today is just really a buzz. And of course, Resurrection last week was just a fantastic day, and connecting with the cast again, connecting with all the people who backed it, and without them it wouldn't have happened. It was just fantastic. So I'm living the dream.
Resident Evil isn't just a series of games for the true fans of the community. It's been a survival companion, an escape from reality when we need it, means of facing fears, both literal and digital, as well as a way in which we found connection and friendship with others. There are many other stories that could have been shared, each revealing just how influential the franchise has been to our lives these past 3 decades. Obviously, as this essay is done in retrospect, in celebration of the series turning 30, it's been focused on the series past, but more exciting, especially right now at the time of such a milestone anniversary, is considering the future of the series we fans have to look forward to. We have Resident Evil Requiem,
Hey, over here.
next-gen remakes, possibly. There's rumors of the series moving forward with no connection to the past, and side stories being made to fill in the gaps, so other Outbreak-like things. Hopefully that happens. I would absolutely love it if we got to explore more of the side characters, and some of the lesser-known characters getting a little bit of a chance to shine. And a new film coming out by Zach Krieger. Considering the work that Krieger did on Weapons and Barbarian, I'm kind of hopeful that he's going to do Resident Evil justice. I know that it's an original story and character that he's going with, but again, that's kind of what a film adaptation needs. It needs that familiarity of the world, but not familiarity of the story that's being told, because we want to be surprised as an audience. We want to wonder if that character is going to survive. As always, thank you so much for joining me for this lecture. I know this particular one was not academic in nature and was more of a rant, but it was still something I felt in my heart that I had to make. I want to expressly thank those involved in creating the game, such as the likes of Shinji Mikami, Hideki Kamiya, Hiroki Kato, composers such as Makoto Tomozawa, Akira Kaida, and Masami Ueda, or amazing scenario writers like the Nate Noboru Sugimura, and many, many others. Without them, we all would never have had this world and its characters and monstrosities to bring us together these last 30 years. I'd also like to thank the other fans and members of the Resident Evil community for taking the time to say a few words to be included in this video. None of them had to do it, especially those that have their own channels and platforms. So the fact that they were willing to give me a moment of their time means the absolute world to me. I've been a fan of the Resident Evil franchise literally since its release. I've been there for the great, the trash, and everything in between, and I will continue to support the series. No matter where Resident Evil goes next, I'll be there. Controller in hand, heart pounding, ready to survive. And I hope many of you will be there as well. Be safe, manage your resources, and remember to stay calm, because if the suspense doesn't kill you, something else will.